Okay, on this one, the first thing I want to do is I want to get those eyes. Because again, what's nice about blinding a man, it's just a lot easier to just cause injury. It also creates a hell of a lot of chaos within the body at that point, because not only can he not see, but now he's going to get trauma to parts of the body. He has no idea what happens. Everything's going to be a surprise after you've blinded him. Now, again, we've emphasized this throughout. The only thing that changes anything in my favor is creating the injury. What has happened prior to that? You know, it could be a variety of things. We could show you every frickin' scenario available. It really doesn't matter at this point. He could be grabbing me at this point. He could be in my face at that point. He could be brandishing a weapon. Nothing really matters if I'm able to, if I'm not hit, if I'm not in trauma, if I'm not reacting to something, I'm able to do something at this point. You know, he may have already hit me at that point, and now I have my opportunity. My opportunity are these eyes, and that's what I want. So I look in, I'm taking all 4 of my fingers, I'm going right into the eyes, and I want to rake them right across the eyes. My goal is to get the first knuckles and all my fingers wet. That's really what I'm looking for. So I get that kind of a dramatic reaction. The man is blinded now. Now I'm going to come right up under, I'm going to use an open hand palm here, and come right up under and grab that throat. I have his throat there, it's a strike. I've struck him up, I've already got his body weight going forward. I'm now looking where I want that skull to be. I'll take 1 step forward and I'm going to drop right where I want him. Now from here, I am just going to merely just use my body weight. And this is full penetration I've got. He can go nowhere, he's going to absorb everything I have. And from here, I'm just going to do, for safety's sake here on I'm going to do it very slowly. But what I'm taking is I'm going to take my forearm, I'm going to place it right into his windpipe, right into that thyroid cartilage. I'm going to drop everything into it. And at the same time, I'm going to be striking with my hip area. I'm going to go right up across his hip and his liver at the same time. So he's going to get multiple strikes. As Chris pointed out earlier, even though these are my target areas, my hip and the size of my hip is going to get a lot more trauma going on in his internal organs here, besides the areas that I'm striking. So from here, I drop all of my body weight on him, and I'm striking with my hip right across the whole area here, and at the same time, my forearm is coming right into him. So as he comes up from the reaction of getting struck from the hip like this, my forearm greets him. He walks right into this, which intensifies the damage that you're doing to the cartilage here. So this is a very powerful strike, and again, you see so many people getting to this place right here, and they get confused. They start doing stuff like, I see these kind of idiotic strikes all the time, you know, like this. There's no real power in something like this, you know, when you're just hitting with your elbow. And I see people do all this kind of stuff. You know, Chris pointed some of that out earlier. This is the way to get the most out of your body weight and to really do intensive trauma. So this guy's done. Because we never assume that you've only got one. He's got friends, he's got people you got to worry about. You have to fight your way out of here. I don't want to wonder whether or not this guy is going to be able to come back. A strike like this is going to do such trauma that this individual is going to be somebody you don't have to be concerned about anymore.
So as we've covered before, blinding the man is a great way to get started. We can also be hitting him in the side of the neck for this technique. We can also be rupturing his eardrum. There's really no limit to the ways that we can get started here. And as Tim also explained, it really doesn't matter what he wants to do. It matters what I'm doing to him. My job here is to injure the man. The first thing I'm doing is clawing him in the eyes. I'm going to continue that circle right around to smack him into the groin. You'll notice on each of these that I'm moving my pelvis, moving my entire body to get the energy necessary to do these sorts of things. From there, I'm simply going to bring out his arm, his full arm right here, the forearm. I'm going to take it parallel to the ground and drive all of my body weight over the top of it. Technically, this is a throw, but what I'm doing is I'm really striking the ground with this forearm, trying to punch it straight down, using all my body weight to drive it down to the ground. You'll see Dutch is slapping down here. The guy on the street's going to get quite a bit of head trauma. Now, the question, of course, becomes, how do I get any more energy? Obviously, I can rise up and drop back down. We've discussed that some. But the other idea is I can drop energy out of the sky. And the way I'm going to do that is by setting my hand down onto the ground, launching my pelvis up into the air to get even more potential energy. Because quite honestly, the only way I can hit this guy harder right now is to be falling from a greater height. This is my femur. This is the most energy I can drop in a knee drop. But if I actually get my pelvis up in the air even higher, that drop becomes much more similar to the double knee drops we did earlier. So in this situation, I'm going to be putting my hands down, kicking my feet up into the air, and targeting throat and spleen on the far side of the liver over here. As I do these, I'm going to be setting these down so that my arms are parallel, my hands rather, are parallel to the targets I want. That way, as my body rights itself in the air, it'll come down in a straight described line here. So as I set these hands down, and I kick my feet up, as I rotate, I'm able to come straight down and drive into the man here. And this drop really will have my body weight over the top of it with my femurs vertical. It's a really hard fall. I'm trying to keep it easier on Dutch here. But as you do that drop here, I'm going to be able to get the spleen into the throat. As I land, you'll be able to let yourself right back up on your feet. And that's the simple business of walking away or stomping on the man on the way out the door.
So the first thing I want to do to cause an injury, I need to get my body weight in there. I need to penetrate. And in this case, I'm going to penetrate between his feet with my right leg, throwing my entire body weight into him, and I'm going to terminate all of that kinetic energy that I'm putting into him through my forearm. So I'm going to move my entire body weight into him, but he's going to eat my entire body weight with the forearm across the throat. So my target is the throat. I want to crush the throat, start him asphyxiating. The other special thing about this is that the spinal reflex for being struck in the throat that way is going to be to have the head's going to go back, and as the top of the torso and the head move backwards, the arms are going to flare up. That's just simple physics, number one, because as this torso moves back, the arms are going to go forward due to inertia. The other thing that's going to happen here is it's part of the spinal reflex, because a strike to the throat makes the hands want to come toward the throat. Because I know this ahead of time, so even before I've injured him, I know that this arm over here is going to want to track through an arc something like this. I know that ahead of time, and what that means is I can predict how he's going to move, because I know once I injure him, I know exactly how he's going to move. And so by predicting that, I can simply put this other hand out on the arc that his hand is going to travel on to make sure that I get a hold of it. So just to be clear, I'm not trying to do something where I'm stepping in and trying to hit to the throat and grab his arm. This isn't going to work. I'm working at cross purposes to myself. I'm not striking. I'm not throwing my body weight in there. And this kind of stuff is monkeying around, and it's going to get you hurt or killed, because all this is going to do is make him mad, and now I have a hold of an angry man instead of having a hold of a helpless, injured man, which is really what I want. So instead, I'm going to drive with my body weight and hit, and that hand will come up into my hand. And what I'm going to do here very quickly, I'm going to reverse the angle on this so that you can see exactly what's going on here, because I want to be very clear that I'm not reaching out to grab this, but rather I'm driving my body weight in, and his hand is simply flopping upwards, and I know where that's going to be, and I put my hand on that arc and I catch it. So very simple when you know the spinal reflexes in response to the injuries. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drive in, and I've crushed the throat here, and I've caught a hold of his hand here. And this is for two reasons. One, when I hit him in the throat like that with my entire body weight moving forward, he's going to want to continue backwards. He's going to want to continue backwards until he trips and falls down, or until he himself chooses to sit down, or for whatever reason. I don't want him to be 30 feet away from me. I can't hurt him effectively that far away without something like a gun or a different kind of tool. I need him to be right here. I know already in advance that when I strike him to the throat with my entire body weight like that, he's going to want to go away. And I need to do something to keep him here with me so that I can continue working on him. The other reason I grabbed a hold of this arm is because I want to break his wrist. But before we even get to that part, I want to throw him. And in order to throw him, I'm going to, at this point, choose to use his arm to assist me in that. But once again, what I'm really doing here, instead of a throw, is it's all about striking, because even your joint breaking and your throwing at its core is powered by all of the concepts and principles that we've talked about here that have to do with striking. It's going to be powered by your body weight. It's going to be powered by dropping that body weight in the gravity well to change potential energy to kinetic. It's the only way I can do any of this stuff. If I'm going to try and rely on strength with this stuff, I got to be stronger than everybody, but that's just not the case. There are always going to be people stronger than you. There are always going to be people bigger and heavier than you. You can't rely on strength alone. You're going to need to use your body weight. So now from here, I want to use my body weight to strike him into the ground. And the big idea here is I'm going to take my right arm, I'm going to step in, and I'm going to hook over the top like I'm throwing a big, wide haymaker. And I'm throwing this haymaker at the core of the planet. Now, Ron's problem is that his head is going to be between my body weight and the core of the planet. And so that means that he's going to hit his head nice and hard on the concrete. So I'm going to come around like I'm throwing a punch because this is a strike. I'm going to come all the way around, catch him with the crook of my elbow, and now from here, this is all just me dropping my body weight straight down into a knee drop as I try to punch my fist straight down into the planet. And instead of me being able to do that, he hits his head nice and hard on the concrete. But from my point of view, I want to drive this punch all the way down with my body weight over the top of it. So he gets to swallow that kinetic energy up of my body weight dropping with the top of his spine and his head. He's off balance already. It's going to pitch him down. His feet are going to go up, and he's going to hit his head nice and hard on the concrete. That'll do things that I can't do with my bare hands, like give him a skull fracture. So at this point, now my goal is to do something with this arm that I grabbed a hold of, because I don't just simply want to throw it away. This can be useful to me. I can use this to cause further injury to him. And once again, this is all going to be powered with my body weight, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch this straight down so that his elbow, I'm going to essentially do my best to crack his elbow against the concrete and bending the hand forward just like this so that I have the palm down, and that's going to be a base leverage 2 break of the wrist, which is flexion, and that's material that we've already covered in the joint breaking DVDs. But the idea here is, once again, this isn't simply about some kind of joint breaking technique. It is still powered by all the same concepts and principles that we talked about that are required for striking. Because everything that we're talking about with this idea of striking, that's where all the forces that you need are going to come from. They're going to come from your body weight. So I'm going to drive, what I'm going to do, once again, we run into this problem now. Where do I get the energy from? Because my knee is on the ground. I can't, it's difficult for me to drop vertically. I can't do that. But as we've talked about earlier, I'm going to be able to get that kinetic energy by dropping my body weight forward, by rocking forward on that femur. So that rocking back and forth, I have a choice. I can go forward with it, I can go back with it. Either of those is going to give me that weight drop. And in this case, I'm going to choose to go forward. So I'm going to drive this way. From all the way up here, I'm going to punch this down to the ground and drive forward. So this front knee is bending, my body weight is in transition over the top of this base 2 leverage, which is a flexion break, and driving straight down to crack the back of the elbow on the concrete and to tear out the ligaments and tendons in the wrist, breaking that wrist. Now, his reaction to that is going to be to curl up just like this toward that injury, if he's not outright unconscious from the throw and hitting his head on the ground. I'm going to stand up, rise up from here, because now I need to reload that potential energy. I'm going to rise up, and now I'm going to be stomping straight down as hard as I can into the side of the neck. And this is going to be my body weight, once again, over the top, coming straight down into that target. Now, it's very important to point out, when you're working on this joint break, that you don't try it on your friends or try it on your workout partner or your reaction partner in such a way that you're testing it to see, are you feeling it yet? Does it hurt? These kinds of things will lead to injuries in your partner. Likewise, this final stomp to the side of the neck is a very dangerous target to do, especially the amount of force that we're going to be able to load into it from way up here, stomping down with your body weight. There's a real good chance of getting a high cervical spine injury, which can be life-threatening. So you need to be aware of that. If you don't want to kill the man, don't stomp him to the side of the neck. Likewise, when you're working with your reaction partner, don't stomp him to the side of the neck. Take extreme caution. If I'm going to come and do this final target here, I'll make contact with the target, I'll be looking at the target, I'll be thinking about that follow-through, thinking about dropping my weight, but I'm not going to do it to my workout partner because I could accidentally injure him. And at that point, I've done the final trauma I want to do, I'm all done, and I'm out of here.
Okay, this whole video, this whole series that we're talking about is penetration. And penetration, again, does not rely on punching and kicking. That's what most people think about when they're talking about a striking video. What we're talking about is actually using your body, throwing your body at somebody. That can be done a variety of different ways. In this particular setup, what I chose to do was I either found my hands, not available to me. They were either in my pockets or they were bound. Either way, it didn't matter. Again, I was still penetrating through into the body, using my body to displace him. I chose to use my knee initially, and the first target that I went for was going into the internal saphenous nerve. So I decided to do that, and I went in and I got my first strike, which displaces the man at that point. Starts weakening his structure and sets me up for what I want to do, which is lay him out on the ground. Now I'm going to attack his hip area, go right into his hip crease, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to lift this leg up, and I'm just going to go right back in to a good forward stance, basically, which is going to drop him. It's the penetration of my body through and ending up in this stance is what takes away his center of gravity and drops him at that point. Now from here, I chose to use knee drops. And a simple way to do that is you step over the target area. I stepped over the groin area first, and then again, head over hips and drop. And that's what you're going to get. Now, whatever you weigh is again going to be on that knee. So I've got approximately 220 pounds here on that nice little notch bone right below the patella. That's dropping right into Dutch's groin, giving me that nice groin reaction. Second thing I saw was I'm just looking right at that windpipe, right at the throat. So I decided that's my next target. I step over that target and I do the same thing. I just step right over and I ride him down at that point. Third thing I saw was the eye. Again, just came right over, kind of looking at the nose area, right into the orbital, and again, dropping right into it. Be extremely careful when you're doing these knee drops on your training partner. Again, very easy to cause trauma, even light trauma, to areas and hurt your training partner, just unnecessary. But these are extremely powerful strikes and extremely useful. So get these down and make sure that you use good structure.
For this technique, I'm going to start off in a knee drop, in the classic little league posture here. My goal is to strike into the saphenous nerve, and I want to do this with some power. So as always, I need to rock off the top of this femur to drop this potential energy, the height from the ground up to my pelvis, down towards the center of the earth. The way I'm going to do that is by rotating with my hips and my shoulders to drive those two-knuckle punch to the saphenous nerve, but always with that vertical component. Wanting to the leg here to buckle the leg, drop the man down, ruin the leg for the duration of the fight. My next goal is to hook up into the throat there and grab the man solidly. So this isn't simply me wrapping around the neck to get a handle on his throat, but rather making sure that there's a shot, an up and a down shot. And there's actually some subtle work even going on with my hips to make sure this means something. Because I have a very skinny arm. If I'm simply using my arm to get the job done, it's not going to have the sort of strike that I need on a 300-pound man, which we're going to go ahead and use wrong for in the process here. The next thing I need to do is rotate so that my back is to him, so I can throw him in the line that I want. I'm going to rotate this way so the man's going straight over the top. And now I need to have a lot of energy. The way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to be punching straight down towards the ground, trying to touch my shoulder to the deck. And to make this happen, if I just total with my arms, it'd never work. So my goal here is to drop using my pelvis descending this way, and I'm letting my femur bend backwards, fold backwards this way. And as it folds and collapses, all of my energy begins to make that throw happen. Let's get you back up then. So my goal here in doing this, so we've struck the saphenous nerve, I've hit up and down like this, I've got the man solidly. My goal now is to pop this drop. So I'm going to just drop it down, and as I do this, I'm going to get all the energy, break his inertia with my body weight drop, and slam his head in the concrete. Now, obviously for safety, my partner's going to tuck his head. My job is to tuck his head as well, so he doesn't get the top of his skull on the concrete. And on the street, my job is to drive the coronal suture straight into the concrete, compress the neck, and then have his body weight flop over the top. It's going to be a horrible cervical trauma. So I just want to make sure that we're very clear here. I do not want my partner's skull touching the concrete. If it does that, you're going to have to take your friend to the hospital here. So make sure you're very safe. I'm going to make this body weight drop happen exactly like a punch, with all the snap towards the ground that I can muster. And that's going to throw the man. At this point in time, he's going to have a skull trauma. You can be down here like this with his head touching the ground, and that's a classic punch. I'm driving straight down, trying to drive my shoulder towards the ground to make his body flop over the top. And then from there, you can do whatever you want. In the emergency medical services, they say don't move somebody with an injured neck. Our job is to move this guy quite a bit. You can kick him repeatedly as much as you want and head on out the door.
For this technique, I'm going to start by laying flat on my back on the ground. And this is one of those places where you can look at it and say, where the heck are you going to get the energy, the kinetic energy, to be able to put injuries into this guy, right? And that is a problem, but not really when you understand and you think about striking, rather than as punching or kicking. Instead of thinking of it that way as something to do with your arms and legs, you think about it as all of you, all of the time. So now instead of hitting him inside the internal saphenous nerve here with my arm, which won't do anything appreciable at all, I know I need to use all of me all of the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him my forearm as hard as I can right across the inside of the thigh to get that internal saphenous nerve, and I'm going to do it with my entire body. So I'm going to move my entire body in that direction. That's how I'm going to get the energy to get this strike done. So from here, I'm just going to roll in that direction and throw my entire body at that target. So I'll hit all at once. I'm really only using my arm strength to lock my structure down so that when this forearm hits, it's attached to the rest of my body like a steel pipe rather than just trying to hit him with my arm. That's going to wreck that target, numb the leg, get this spinal reflex right here. Now from here, it's easy to see where the energy for the next shot is going to come from, because I'm just going to once again roll everything back in the other direction and once again strike with all of me all at once. The muscles of my arm and the muscles of my upper torso only being used to lock the structure down so the elbow is in and down nice and tight. So that when I hit him with all of me all at once. Now from here, I want to break the ankle, and I'm going to get the energy to do that strike by once again just simply continuing with this rotation, because now that my body is up on this side, I can now drop it down. Even though this is a very small drop, 6 to 8 inches really, that's going to be more than enough if I know where to put it and how to apply that energy. In this case, it's going to be my hip just above his ankle joint with my entire body weight rolling onto that to snap that ankle. Now, once I've snapped that ankle and the guy has fallen back here and I've get to the head trauma in addition to the broken ankle, I'm going to continue this rotation, and now for my final shot, which is going to be to rupture his bladder, I've got all this force coming up and over the top, because once again, that's where my body's going to go. So all of me, all at once, comes up over the top, and I put all of it into the bladder target right there. This hand right here, I'm not pushing on this, I'm not doing anything fancy like that. The reason this hand is here is because, once again, it's going to be all of me. I'm not going to lay back here and try to elbow like this. This isn't going to get anything done. What's going to get stuff done is me coming over the top and throwing my entire body weight, the weight of this arm included, into that bladder target to rupture it. That will rupture it and get an injury. Now, if I think there's anything more he needs, I've got plenty of other targets here, plenty of other opportunities. When I feel I'm finished, then I'm just going to roll in the opposite direction to get out and get up, and I'm all done.
Okay, on this technique, I'm going to just stay from whatever position I find myself in. I either dropped into the knee drop and did the groin slap, or I found myself in a position here where I'm already on my knee. Maybe been stumbled, maybe found myself here, and this is where, this is where I have to start fighting. Now, from here, what I want to do is I want to start out with the groin. What I'm doing is I'm taking a 4-finger slap, and I'm slapping in the groin from here. Now, just slapping is one thing. Yeah, I could get a reaction, but I want to drop my body weight into it again. So again, when I come, dropping in to get that out of it at that point. The wrist is right there. That's what I want. I'm going to do a base leverage 3, something you'll be seeing in our upcoming joint breaking videos. And I'm going to take it from here and rotate him down onto the ground at that point. Now here, I've got him slammed. I've got the additional trauma. Ron's slapping out, but I would have got some head trauma, possibly got hip. Maybe if he tried to brace himself, I would have maybe done some damage to the other wrist over there, or elbow as he came down. So I've got some time here. Now I'm going to adjust back up and set my kick up. So I come from here, and I'm going to pull back on the arm at that point, just over, and I'm looking right in. You've got a variety of different targets that you can strike here. I'm going to go right into the lung area on this particular one. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to drop all my body weight back. You can see, as I'm dropping back, he's coming towards me. As he's coming towards me, that's when the kick strikes. And you get all your body weight into that particular strike. And from whatever angle you find yourself in, if you find yourself over, maybe the guy flops around, you find him here, great. Even more power into the strike at that point. You just have a variety of options, but there's no reason for me to sit here and do this kind of stuff when I can drop all my body weight back, get him in me, and then just look at all the extension I have. I've got about an additional 8 inches that I can just put right out into him. He's going to absorb all of it at that point. So this is a very powerful strike, but don't screw it up by either letting go or just giving him a static strike. Get everything you can into it. This is where the penetration really helps. Boom, right into him.
As we've mentioned before, in any double strike, our goal is to strike to either a single point or originate both strikes or multiple strikes from a single point. In this instance, I'm trying to strike to the point right behind Dutch, roughly about here. I'm going to be clawing into the eyes and driving into the spleen with the goal of trying to make my hands connect over there. 1, 2. Now that's obviously driven by my body weight in motion, like all the strikes we've been talking about. From there, I want to strike him in the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. And to do this, I'm going to be striking him roughly where the seam is here on his pants, by driving my body weight laterally to load up, and then returning it laterally as well. So as we're talking about in these horizontal strikes, me working my pelvis back and forth between these stances. Forward stance and knee drop is going to be a transition that allows me to get all that energy. I'm going to drop up here, I'm going to drive vertically, as we've already described, all of these strikes have a vertical component. We're dropping back in to get lateral femoral cutaneous nerve here, the LFC. And the LFC here, as I strike it, there is going to help me wind up for the 2-knuckle punch from the left, as I continue to rotate and shift my body weight to strike into the saphenous nerve to drop them in. Striking in there is all body weight. I'm at the end of my extension here. If I go any further, it starts to become arm strength, and I'm also going to lose my balance. So from there, I simply rotate back away, and I can go into the next man or go on out the door.
So for this technique, we're going to start in a knee drop. And once again, this is a position akin to laying on the floor, being on one knee, that a lot of people feel that they have no power from, that they can't actually generate enough force to hit somebody hard enough to hurt them. And that's a lie, because I still have my body weight under my control. My body weight is at the top of this pivot where my knee and my hip are, so I can rock that femur back and forth, moving my pelvis, moving my entire body weight, in order to generate the kinetic energy I need to actually get some trauma done on this guy. So from here, the first strike I'm going to do is I'm going to hit him with a double heel palm, striking just with this part of my heel right here at the end of the ulna bone into the hip creases. And that target just runs 45 degrees from the outside of the hip down to the groin, and that's actually going to be the hip joint. I'm also going to be taking out the femoral nerves on the front of the pelvis. But the main idea with this is that I'm going to be using my body weight, because if I simply hit with my arms, I'm not strong enough, my arms don't weigh enough, and I'm personally not strong enough to do anything appreciable to Ron. Because in order to get what I want out of this, which is I want him to go down, and he's going to go down so he can hit his head, sprain his wrist, break his tailbone, whatever kinds of ancillary things are going to happen to him when he hits the ground. The only way I'm going to get that is if I can accelerate his pelvis out past his base. So I can get his center of gravity to move out beyond his base, then he's going to fall down. And the only way that I can get enough force to do that is with my entire body weight. So all of me, all at once into this. So now I am going to accelerate my arms forward as I strike, but as my arms extend and I actually make the strike, I'm all going to be leaning in. This is all going to be my body weight transitioning forward. And I don't want my arms to be bent when I lean in, because now they'll work as shock absorbers like that. And I don't have the leverage up here. Down here, I would have the leverage to keep this bend. Up here, I don't have the leverage to keep this bend. So I need to make sure my arms impact and they're straight as my body weight is transferring into the guy. So now my arms are just, it's like a solid piece, like a concrete filled post. And this guy is going to run it. I'm going to run into this guy in the pelvis, and my weight is going to transfer in, and that's going to accelerate his pelvis out past his base, and he's going to fall down as long as I keep that driving outward and down. So I'll get the down from me driving my body weight all the way, and you notice I start to drop, I start to go down. He'll eat that vector as well. That's what's going to help put him on the ground. Now from here, I need my next target. And in this case, I'm going to kick to the internal saphenous nerve on the leg just to numb the leg, keep him busy so that I can get to my next target after that. If I need to adjust, if I've hit the guy and he's really slid across the ground, if we're on a slippery surface and he's slid, then I need to take more than one step. That's just fine. I'm going to get up here so that I can get my next target. Whether it means I took 1 step, 2 steps, it doesn't matter. Get to your target. And in this case, I'm going to be accelerating my body from the position I'm in upward into that kick. So my body is moving. Once again, my body weight's moving out. It's not just me swinging my leg, because just swinging my leg like this is not going to get the job done. But rather, I'm going to be kicking from all the way back here, and my body weight driving forward, and then transferring that energy into him with the toe of my boot. And take out the internal saphenous nerve. Man's going to curl up just like this from the spinal reflex. I have my next target. In this case, it's going to be the side of the neck. I want to knock him out, give him a high cervical injury, and put his head back into the concrete, and so that I know he's not going to be getting back up. Once again, that's going to take body weight. So it's not just going to be me sticking my leg out there, but rather me coming up and stomping on the neck as hard as I can. I'm not going to do that to my training partner. I'm going to just simply look at my target, put my foot on the target, follow through carefully and slowly, but I'm not going to stand on my partner, and I'm not going to do this fast if I'm training. In real life, I'm going to come up and I'm going to stomp on that as hard as I can so that I end up in this position right here with my entire body weight having transferred onto that. And that's going to give a really good chance of that high cervical injury, which can be life-threatening. Once I'm done with that, if I feel there's any more trauma that needs to be done, I'm going to put it into him. If not, I'm out of here.
Okay, the goal in this technique is I fight from where I find myself. I find myself in this particular position. I don't want to, get up to fight at this point. I don't want to have to, make extraneous movement. You want to be able to use and rotate and penetrate into the man to be able to get the most out of the strike from where you're at. Because again, my one move, this might be the only move that I have in this particular situation. You saw the second time, Dutch was grabbing me by the hair at this point. This guy's going to get aggressive real fast. You have to take action now. So the first thing I did is I was able to move forward and use the rotation of my body to come up, and my first strike was a backhand fist. You've seen it throughout the series here. And I'm going to go right into the liver area here. I just want to start bringing them, double them over, and get them on the injury path here. So that's my first target. I'm real close to it. I see it. I can generate a lot of force into the strike. So as whatever he does, as he goes to grab or do whatever, I'm just right into the strike. Now that gives me the lateral side of the neck. I'm looking right at the throat. I can actually see my target area, but I'm going to actually come right back and wind up. You've got everything here. I can rock back, wind up, and give him everything in this strike. So as I strike the throat here, that gives me a lot of leverage to be able to do it. Now this, Dutch is giving me the minimum reaction here. Most likely you would find somebody on the ground at that point if you really put your body weight into the strike. Now from here, I'm just going to take them right back up. I decide I'm going to just take them and just come right in the ear and go down. Now the point I want to point out, Dutch, can you come here for a second? When you're striking targets that you have bilateral targets, if you can only see the opposite target, the target that you're not actually striking, that is your guidance. When I was actually looking, I couldn't see the opposite ear, but what I was looking at right then, I was looking right down at his ear, and what I did on the strike was I came right up and right to that area, and that's how I gave myself my target guidance. and then I struck right through and pointed where I wanted them at that point. Again, rupturing the eardrum, you're gonna sit there, you're gonna rupture the eardrum, the semicircular canals are gonna empty, the man's gonna start to go into vertigo. One eardrum, greater than 50% loss of his balance at that point. This guy with the trauma that I just gave him is done. I can safely walk up, handle his friends, or get out of here.
I want to ruin this man's arm. I'm going to start off by striking him into the radial nerve on top of the radius bone right here. As I strike into the radius, I'm going to be able to crush the nerve, the radial nerve, against the bone and ruin this arm. I'm going to be able to sacrifice the majority of his fingers and the use of his thumb in this technique just out of the gate. I'm going to do that by striking with my body weight. As you see, I drive forward with my hips, once again, moving that lateral force so I can generate some extra strike. Because quite honestly, if I'm whacking this guy in the arm like this, it's not going to get it done. Striking him is going to ruin his arm. From there, I want to smack him in the groin some. I'm going to shift my balance, shift my weight in this direction so I can strike with my hand. This I'm doing a backhand palm smack so I can drive with some force and smack in there. Now as you'll notice, as my pelvis moves here, I'm going to be able to wind up here for the throat shot. I rock back so I can generate this energy. Moving laterally, then I can thrust it back in again. This lateral motion right here is going to be the thing that generates this force, the strike in the throat, to hit him in the throat, take him off of his feet. So I smack him to the groin, I wind back up again, bring my hand around for a choke punch. Open-handed, rock back, bring my arm up so when his feet come flying up in the air, I don't get kicked in the face. As I rock back into this again, I'm going to be able to drive into the throat to take the man off his feet and dump him. Now from here, you've got a lot of different opportunities. There's just about no limit to what you can do. The man's pretty much a bag of potential injuries, and all you need to do is pick out the ones that you want. You can go ahead and walk on out the door again, kicking all the way out, and you're gone.
For this technique, I want to break some fingers to get him into position so that I can punch him in the kidney. Once again, being on one knee isn't really a problem if you know that you can use this potential energy that you have here. Because you're up a little bit off the ground, at least this far, you still have movement that you can do with your entire body to put your entire body weight into things. So to get to those broken fingers, which I'm going to need to get to the kidney, I'm going to need to start somewhere with a different target. So in this case, I'm going to start with the radial nerve, because if the hand is dead and not working right, then I can grab those fingers and break them. So I'm going to backhand into the radial nerve there, hit the forearm into his body, make sure it doesn't fly away and that I can actually get the fingers that I want to get a hold of. And notice that I'm going to use rotation and penetration, and I'm going to be moving my body weight into that strike, rather than me just trying to stick my arm out like this. So I've driven into that strike and I've killed his arm, and I'm going to reach down, grab a hold of a couple fingers here. And now what I'm going to do with these fingers is I'm going to take them and I'm going to snap them. I'm going to break the joints in the fingers by driving straight down toward my knee and to the outside here. This is going to be my body weight again to get this break. This break is going to be a base leverage 1 break like we covered in the joint breaking DVD series. So from here I've got the broken fingers. Now I've got my kidney target. The kidney target's going to be straight through here from the side. And I'm going to be able to punch that. But once again, I got to get my body weight moving in that direction. If I just stick my arm out, it's not going to get it done. Because the job I need here is I need broken ribs, I want a bruised kidney, I want to knock the wind out of him, and I want to get him to rotate and go down on one knee. So from here, I need to move, once again, my entire body into him. And I'm just going to take a small step with my left leg right into here. Now I've loaded in the potential energy by picking this leg up. And then I'm going to drop it on him by driving in. And once again, my foot comes down, my body weight is in motion laterally, and I continue that motion by rocking forward on the knee to get that punch into the kidney, putting the man in this position here. Now from here, I want to shin kick him in the throat, crush the throat, smack his head into the pavement. And once again, I'm not going to get that if I try to stand up and go from here and try to lift my leg using my muscles. Number one, it's going to be difficult for me to get that shot in there. Number two, I'm not going to be able to generate the forces necessary just with my musculature of my leg to get the head smack that I want out of this or the crushed throat. So I'm going to throw my entire body from this position here up and through the kick and over. So I'm going to stand up and kick into there. My entire body is going to transition through into that kick, and now I'm out of here.
On this particular technique, again, we find ourselves in this position. We're looking for targets of opportunity and picking the spleen this time. What my goal is I want to go right in. I want to go right into his ribcage. I want him to absorb every part of this backhand that I'm going to give him. I want it to go right in and shake his organs right through to the spine. So, you know, in order to do that, I need to start moving my body weight and penetrate into him when I'm doing this strike. Doesn't matter what he's doing. He might be grabbing at me, doing whatever. As soon as I come in and make that initial strike, I've got him moving where I want. Now from here, what I've done is, my goal is I want to take this leg away from him at that point. So I'm going to go and I'm going to grab meat right in, and what that allows me to do is move him whichever way I want. I'm going to move him back this way because my goal is to get all his weight on this particular leg. And now again, using my lateral motion, I'm going to sit there and penetrate right in and strike right into the sciatic, which is going to, again, deaden the leg, drop him, that leg's done. But again, it wasn't a strike where I was sitting here just using my arm. Again, we were using everything we could get. I get right back into it and everything forward. So I'm hitting. The arm is locked in, everything's aligned, and it's my body weight, and then I can just follow through at that point, dropping them.
I'm going to ruin this man's legs by striking into the lateral femoral cutaneous, the LFC, and into the saphenous. At the same time, double chops. One's palm up, the LFC, one's palm down, the saphenous. Doing this by rotation and dropping my pelvis. So once again, all of me moving into these strikes. 1, 2. As I do this man's legs are gone. I want to make sure that I'm driving the strike while pulling my elbows in and down and locking my arms as much to my ribcage as I possibly can, so this rotation and motion in my pelvis is meaningful when I strike those legs. After this, I'm going to be hitting up into the throat, and to do that, I'm really going to be just simply using the palm up into the neck, kind of smacking up into his face to stretch the man out, give me a great groin shot, and allow me to get the timing that I need to get my wind up. So this arm comes back, I'm going to be driving with all of my body weight laterally. All this is about driving my weight forward to make sure that this is not just a punch to the groin, which would never take the man off his feet, but rather that I'm driving all the way through to punch the man into the groin and drive him to the ground. So that punch is going to be driven this way. When I get done with that, I can turn and go the opposite direction, or I can rise up and take more opportunities to continue striking the man. And I'm out.
So what I want to do here is I want to destroy the man's legs to bring the next target that I want to get down to my level. Because one of the things about being down here is it doesn't change your ability to hurt the man in any way, shape, or form, as I think we've already illustrated throughout the other techniques that we've shown. Whether you're lying on the ground, whether you're down on one knee or both knees or sitting, it really doesn't matter. If you understand how to convert the potential energy in your body into kinetic energy and to get that kinetic energy into a target to destroy it, you're all set. So my big problem though is that there will be targets that I want that I can't reach from here. And so I have the targets in front of me that I can get groin, bladder, solar plexus. I have the motor nerves in the legs that we've been destroying lately. But there are other targets that I can't quite reach. I'm going to have trouble reaching the eyes realistically. I'm going to have trouble getting the ear, the throat, or the neck from down here. But if I know what this guy is going to do once I cause that injury, the spinal reflex, then I can make him move the way I want to make him move to get the targets I want. And in this case, my ultimate goal is to hit him in the neck so hard with my body weight that he cracks his head on the ground and knocks himself out. That's really what I'm looking for from here. And I'm going to get there by starting with some other traumas to the legs to get that reaction to pull that head down. And so in this case, I'm going to start by chopping him to the LFC, the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. And what I'm going to do to power that is two things. Number one, it's going to be the rotation. We talk about penetration and rotation. I'm going to be using rotation. I'm going to wind my body up this way, and I'm going to come at it with a strike that follows all the way through. But the other thing I'm going to be doing here is notice I'm moving my whole body toward the strike. I'm moving into the strike. That's where I'm going to get the energy to get that strike done. And out of that rotation, I'm going to follow all the way through. You can see my wind-up now. You can also see I'm leaning away slightly because I want to build up that potential energy. This is going to give me a greater amount of potential energy because I can really come driving in from here. And that's exactly what I do. My entire body weight's going to shift forward, and I'm going to strike the other LFC there. That's going to cause this reaction right here. Now, both his legs are gone, and I have my neck target at my level from down here on the floor. This is a nice position for this neck for me. And because his legs are dead, he's not going to be able to walk around and adjust his balance when I smack him in the top of the spine like this. So I followed all the way through, once again, with that rotation, and now I'm going to penetrate by driving my entire body weight in and through the side of the neck, using the forearm here to knock him out and make him hit his head on the concrete. Once again, driving all the way through so that my entire body is moving into that strike rather than just my scrawny arm. Once he's hit the ground there, obviously from here, I can stand up and begin kicking him, stomping on him, whatever I want to do. Or I'm up and into his friends, or I'm running out the door.
Okay, on this technique, my goal is I just want to blast right through this man. I'm going to use my full body to just drive right through him. I'm going to really be hitting him with my body. The impact point that I'm choosing is my forearm. I'm going to be going right into my target area is right here, right at the cartilage. I'm going to specifically probably pick his Adam's apple on this particular one. But the key to this is not me coming up and striking him to the throat. That merely is just a static strike. That's really nothing. Without my body behind it, none of this is going to matter. And in order to do that, I've got to fully get through. I have to just basically take my hips and make sure my hips replace wherever his are at that point. I'm just going to blast through him. In order to do that, I need to really commit to this. Now, just taking my body alone, I can do some damage coming through a guy. I don't even have to really have a specific target where I'm striking. I just come in and step, and I can knock Dutch, down doing that on this. Now, added that with a good target and a good body weapon, you can do some real damage on somebody. But the key is, a lot of people, what they do is they lean forward and they try to do this. They're not committing with the body. I need to be here in order to really make this an impact, because here is where it comes. He starts to react into Mike going into his groin area, and he's going to meet me right here. And this is where he's just going to go and just blast when I get through, and I'm going to have him on the ground there. I then chose two more targets. I happened to go for a groin stomp, and he came up to meet me, and I just did an open hand right to the throat again, damaging me again. That was my choice. You could make whatever choice you want. The key is none of it's going to be there for you unless you penetrate, and that's what this series is all about. Full commitment, full body into the man.
My goal here is to break this man's kidneys, ruin his ability to breathe, lay him down face first. To do that, I obviously need to get to the kidneys. And the way we're going to start this off is by breaking his rib cage on the liver and ruining his arm. I'm going to be striking to the ulnar nerve and radial nerve as they run along the back of the arm, and striking into the liver with my palm up in a chop to knock the wind out of him, buckle him, and allow me to turn the man. Doing these two things, once again, these doubles are focused to a single point. They happen to be focused to a single point inside of Ron's body. So I step in 1-2 like this. I'm driving with my body weight laterally to get this to start. I'm going to grab a fistful of meat along the back of the triceps and turn Ron to rotate him and see the back. Now, I'm striking the kidneys. I'll be quite honest with you, most people strike far too low for the kidneys. It's very common to strike just above the ilium on the pelvis, just above the sacrum. And most people, when they're hitting the back, tend to strike about here. But this is nothing but air for the most part. If that was just the skeleton in your old high school bio class, this would be air. And that's not what we're trying to punch. We're trying to break ribs. Now, the kidneys themselves hang rather low in relationship to the rib cage, but our goal, Ron, if you can put your arms out to the side there, our goal is to punch him where the latissimus dorsi pretty much terminate on the rib cage as far as our angle here. So go ahead and hang your arms back down, Ron. As you see with the arch of his back, at this point in time, it becomes, well, not on Ron, but on me, it becomes the love handles. And our job here is to punch just above those. As I strike into here, I'm going to be getting into the 10th intercostal space along the, just above and along the false ribs on the back, or the floating ribs rather, on the back here. And then I'm going to have the structure that I need inside of his body to really transfer the kinetic energy and break things. And in the process of putting all this energy in, I'm able to break Ron's ribs, lacerate his kidneys, and drive him face first. So let's go ahead and step back just for one round here. So I'm here, chop 1, 2, I rotate him, and now my job is to put both my fists together, pretty much like a battering ram, and drive my leg in between Ron's legs, as much energy as I can possibly muster. This is once again grabbing into the closet, pulling out the biggest stick I can possibly find, which happens to weigh 150 plus pounds. My job now is to drive all the way through to knock him down onto his face. I'm gonna load up, drive through, and then once he's flying away, I can extend my arms. But I can't punch with my arms while he's standing. He just weighs too much. Rather than letting my arms bounce back, I'm gonna drive all of that force into him, dump him onto his face, and I can see everything else going out the door.
For this technique, I want to use my body weight like a battering ram to take him by the hip and slam his head into the ground. Now, this gets to a key point. Tim made a lot of good points about it in the previous technique. And that is that the big difference here is in how I commit my body weight to this strike. If I don't commit my body weight to the strike, if I'm worried about things like he's going to counter me or he's going to be doing something, or if I'm worried at all about anything he's going to be doing other than getting injured, then what's going to happen is I'm going to do things like stick my knee out like that, and that has no discernible effect. The only way this is going to work and cause injury is if I commit my body weight like a battering ram to this operation. And so in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive in and put my knee right into that hip target and drive all the way through with my entire body weight. Now, if you're more comfortable starting from a position where he's already injured, as we saw previously on the 2 run-throughs of this technique at regular speed, you can start by clawing him to the eyes. It makes no difference for how this is actually going to end up. But what we're going to be doing here is working on getting that knee in there. So you're going to drive with that knee into the hip crease, and my body weight drives all the way through. So notice that I didn't lean away from it. I didn't try to do it like a kick, because this is not a kick. And a lot of people would look at this and say, the fact I'm using my leg makes it some kind of kick. But rather this is striking, and I'm hitting him with my entire body weight on the spear point of my knee into that hip target and driving him down into the ground. The head is going to be above the hips, and the hips are going to be moving forward. This is going to mean that my entire body weight was transitioning through that. He's going to eat all of that, go to the ground, probably break his coccyx, his tailbone, and then get the head trauma by having his head smack into the concrete, which is exactly what I wanted out of this. That's why I did that in the first place. Now from here, I want to get my second target, and this is going to be to the sternum, big bony plate of armor on the front of the rib cage. Now I need to reload my potential energy reservoir here, and I'm going to do that by switching my feet so that now I come up in the air, and this leg is cocked and ready to go, and my body weight then transitions down again. So once again, I'm stomping straight down with my entire body weight, putting my heel into that sternum to crack the rib cage, hopefully bruise the heart, knock the wind out of him, and give him trauma that's going to be serious enough that this guy's going to need medical attention. Serious enough that he's not going to be getting up and running around after this. Now, let's be clear on this stomp here. Once again, this is a full body weight commitment. If I'm sticking out my leg, if I'm thinking about this like I'm kicking, I'm not going to get the job done. It might sting, it might hurt, but it's not going to be debilitating. And I need to make sure this is debilitating so he can't get back up. So in that case, it's going to be my entire body weight all the way through this. That's going to be a strike with all of me all at once into that target. Now from here, I'm going to step down, and once again, I want to reload that potential energy so that I can drive kinetic into him. In this case, the last target is going to be to the nose. But really, the last target is going to be the back of the skull again, because I want to bounce it off the pavement, give him a concussion, at the very least, a skull fracture if I can manage it. And the only way that's going to happen is, once again, with my body weight. So I've stepped here, I'm going to come up, and now I'm going to drop straight down and punch into the nose while bending my knees, dropping my weight down, and just pile driving that that entire arm as close to my body, nice and tight, and it's going to make contact with that target, and I'm going to drop my weight into that to bounce his head off of the concrete and into this.
Okay, my goal first is I want to get this guy on the ground. And in order to do that, I decided my first strike is going to be, I'm going to go right into the liver here with a heel palm. And so I'm going to step right in, I'm going to rotate in as I'm penetrating to get everything in. Now the thing is, a lot of people when they do heel palms like this, they think of it as more of a strike. They're totally focusing on their heel palm and they're going straight like that. You know, and again, that's not really doing much. What you need to do is, as you're stepping in and rotating, everything's locked here. And I'm coming in, it's almost like I'm just throwing, just imagine this, just lacerate, just latch down right on the elbows, right inside here, and you've just got this battering ram. And you're just gonna throw this into that area with your body. Now the only way I can accomplish that, since I can't extend, if it's, latch straight here, is I've gotta throw my body into it. And that's when I go forward and get that out of it. That gives me the profile I'm looking for. Now, that gives me the LFC right here. Because what I want to do is I want to get these legs together and then slam them down. And in order to do that, I'm going to take my knee and I'm going to bury it right into there. That's all I need. Just right along the seam of the pants, the outside seam of the pants is what I'm looking at. And see how it brings the legs together here. Now, that gives me the opportunity to then come up and basically take my hips and replace where his are down. I'm going to just strike down with my body weight, step where he is, and land him on the ground. And from here, to do that, I come up and over and then right into a good full stance. And I'm right here. Now what I saw when I was down here, I just figured one more strike to the groin can't hurt things. So I come right down, hammer right into the groin and walk away. The key on anything like this is, again, not trying to wrap legs around or kick or do anything like that. It's really replace and stomp. You're right over, you're standing right over where his hips formerly were, and you're striking with your hips. That gives you this type of a profile, provides a tremendous strike to the man. I'm striking basically with my hips, they're going down, throwing him into the planet. That's what you're trying to accomplish on this. Anything less, if you try to ease your way into it, or if you try to snake around it and you don't use a straight spine and good dynamics, you're not going to get this result.
In this technique, I'm going to be driving dynamically all the way through the man. And my goal here is to drop him. One smooth maneuver, walk on out the door. To do that, I need to make sure that I'm driving with my knee straight into the sciatic nerve from the back and the elbowing back into his spleen to rotate him and drop him. Quite honestly, a lot of people would step up, knee the guy in the leg, that wouldn't do what you need to do. Or as they're driving through the femur on their own leg, would tend to be more vertical. What we're looking to do is to jump in with a spear for a knee. So as I drive in here and catch him in the sciatic nerve, I get exactly this reaction. By using my body weight and exploiting the benefits of the spinal reflexes here, I'm able to get the man to lose his balance, shift his weight, and lift this leg up into the air. As he does that, I'm also elbowing back into the spleen. And this elbow to the spleen is going to get the man to rotate slightly for me. Those two together, I'm going to take the man off of his feet and drive him down. This opposite arm here is coming around so I can add my upper body weight into the strike to maximize my force. Now, as you said before, surface area is an issue for you when you're applying an amount of force. So I need to make sure I have as much force as possible so that when I divide it up across these two different points, I don't lose too much. So when I do this, I want to make sure I have all of my body weight driving through in a straight line so I can head on out the door. Those two things together, 1, 2, is going to drop the man. And from there, you can keep walking or turn around and go after him. This is an excellent thing to do I can get here, clawed him in the eyes, rotate him here, and I want to be done with him rapidly. 1, 2, and out the door.
For this technique, I want to start by rupturing the man's bladder to injure him, render him helpless, get the spinal reflex out of him, and then do whatever else it is that I want to do to him. And in this case, I'm going to drive my entire body weight into the man. Once again, essentially, think about this as just falling into him. And I'm going to make my contact point, the 2 knuckles right here on this fist, but that elbow is going to stay in and down. This arm's going to stay locked to my body so that I can transfer my body weight in motion into the man's bladder. And so in this case, we're going to think about it, like I said, I'm just going to be a battering ram falling straight into the guy. So I'm going to fall straight into that target there and get that bladder reaction, rupturing the bladder. And once again, that's only going to happen with my body weight. If I stand out here like this and try to punch like that, it is not going to get the job done, plain and simple. I'm not going to get an injury. I'm not going to get a spinal reflex. This man will still be in control of his body. I don't want that to happen. The only way this is going to work is if I commit 100% to causing that injury. And the way I do that is by using all of my body weight all at the same time. So once again, I'm going to fall into the man, boom, to drive that shot into the bladder. Now from here, I've got him in this position. I want to go ahead and hit him in the back of the neck hard enough to get that electrical knockout and knock the guy out if at all possible. Once again, this is going to take body weight. It's not going to work if I try to just pivot here and drive this arm forward with my muscular strength. This isn't going to have the effect I want. Who knows? It may or may not piss him off. It may or may not sting or hurt, but it's not going to cause an injury that's going to render this man debilitated. So from back here, I'm going to be pivoting and bending this knee so that my whole body weight then is transferring into this strike. And I'm going to come over the top with my hand, this hand near my chest with the palm toward me. It can be an open hand, it can be a fist, it doesn't matter, because I'm just going to hit him with the ulna bone right below the elbow right here. That's my actual contact point that I'm going to make. But once again, that ulna bone driven on its own accord in there with muscles does nothing for me. It's not going to get the job done. What does get it done is my entire body weight coming over the top and dropping in. This knee bending. This knee was straight. I was faced back the other way. I came 180 degrees, and my entire body weight dropped down like a freight train right on top of the back of his neck. That's going to make the guy see stars. If I get that electrical knockout, he goes face down into the dirt, and that's the end of this. If not, worst case scenario, I get this reaction right here. The man will just bend down forward, he'll drop his head, and now his head is in a perfect orientation for me to do the last thing I want to do, which is I want to take him down. I want to put the guy on the ground behind me because maybe I'm heading out the door this way or I'm going after his friends in this direction. I want to make sure he's not going to be there to screw things up for me. So striking to the back of the neck, I'm going to do that with my leg. And once again, it's all going to be driven with my body weight. If I try to reach up with my leg and hook this and do some kind of fancy pull this around with my leg, I better hope he weighs a lot less than me, because otherwise this just plain isn't going to work. The only way it's going to work is if I drive it with my body weight. So I'm going to come up here. Once again, I'm reloading that potential energy reservoir by straightening up this leg and bringing this leg up. And now I'm going to drop the whole thing on him all at once and strike through the top of his spine there into my forward stance to slam the guy down onto the ground right here. Just spin him around and drop him right into the ground. If I feel that I need to put more trauma into him, I have many more targets, as you can see. I have groin there, throat there, and I'm all set to go. I got that, my hands I can use. I can be dropping knees into him. I can be putting my body weight into him some more. But from this point, if I think I'm done, and I'm out of here.
All right, for this technique, I'm going to start out by just taking the man's wind. I'm just going to take my fist, I'm just going to bury it right into the solar plexus. So I'm going to step through, throw my body into him, come in, get that. Now initially, he's going to come up and he's going to bring his fingers up. So I know his fingers basically are going to be in this general area. I reach in, I grab the first one that I have, As soon as I grab the fingers, I squeeze the fingers. I pull everything back into me, and then I punch down. A lot of this will be covered in the upcoming joint breaking series that we have. Now from here, I've got a couple of different profiles I can go. I let go of the fingers, and I'm going to decide to take my forearm, I'm going to lunge right through, striking with my knee, coming right through with my knee, hitting him right in his saphenous nerve, coming through here. But as I'm doing it, I'm going to step through and just point where I want him. That'll end up, I'm getting him lateral side of the neck, in the saphenous nerve, but really what I'm doing is I'm blasting through with my body. And so it's a full lunge, full commitment. You're just going to go right through the man's center at that point. It's a devastating blow, and again, the additional trauma that you get by throwing your body throws that, basically takes that head and just launches it right into the concrete. So again, you will not get that though unless you penetrate. And that's why the whole series keeps talking, keep hammering with you about penetration. Again, if I just threw my arm out and tried to hit it, tap him with my knee, wouldn't get anything near to this. It wouldn't take the man out. This, I know I now can turn my back on this guy, take care of his friends, or get out of here.